Well, oftentimes business education today, and I see it all the time, kids come out of college, the best colleges, Wharton and Harvard and Stanford and some of the great business schools, and they'll come out and they won't have practical experience. There's too many case studies that aren't practical.
You know, we ask kids that are 16 to 18 years old to make $100,000 debt decisions when they go off to university. And they're not prepared for that. They don't know what they're getting themselves into. They just assume, okay, I'm going to pay 4 years of education at $25,000 a pop. And when I come out the other side, somehow I'll be able to pay it back.
Right.
That's not how life works anymore.
There's no need even to have a college degree at all, or even high school. I mean, if somebody graduated from a great university, that may be an indication that they will be capable of great things, but it's not necessarily the case. You know, if you look at, say, people like Bill Gates, Larry Ellison, Steve Jobs, these guys didn't graduate from college. But if you had a chance to hire them, of course, that would be a good idea.
I think having the flexibility to explore a lot of different things, which you can do when you're in college, which is one of the amazing things about being in college, is you can work on all these hobbies and code a lot of stuff and try a lot of different things. It's this amazing flexibility that I think most people take for granted. And once you decide, okay, I'm going to start a company and I'm going to do it with someone else, you immediately now need to convince someone else if you want to change your mind on something. And I think people really undervalue the option value and flexibility. I think explore what you want to do before committing is really like the key thing, and keep yourself flexible. And no, I think that's. I
agree.
Yeah.
I mean, it's actually kind of funny. You know, if you think of like what is education, like you're basically downloading data and algorithms into your brain, and it's actually amazingly bad in conventional education because like it shouldn't be like this huge chore. You know, someone's standing up there kind of lecturing at people. And they've done the same lecture 20 years in a row, and they're not very excited about it. And in fact, I think a lot of things people learn, probably there's no point in learning them because they never use them in the future. Because a lot of kids are just in school kind of puzzled as to why they're there.
The people who are doing the work that we care about are figuring out what to do next, not following the person who told them what to do next. And the problem with most colleges is they are high school, but with more binge drinking. The entire purpose of a good university is to give you a foundation to fail, not a foundation to get an A. And if you graduate from college with straight A's, you have to do some serious soul searching as to why you chose to spend your time doing that.
The A students work for the B students. The C students run the businesses, and the D students dedicate the buildings.
It's like the newspaper industry, right? More printing presses, more big buildings, right? Makes us look grander. We have brains that we're putting them out there. There's a point of diminishing returns in terms of what it's worth for a college education and how much debt you're willing to saddle yourself with.
A lot of people follow. A lot of people are followers. Generally, not. We have problems. We have too many entrepreneurs. We have too many successful people. Like, look how many people go through business classes. If everything you needed was in that actual business class, in that book, it'd be too many successful business people.
Right.
How many people graduate? Matter of fact, the professor wouldn't have the time to sit there and teach you. That knows this book damn near verbatim, page by page, he knows it, right?
Because he'd be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, he's too busy.
Yeah.
I'm doing way too much right now because I got the palm trees and we selling so much stuff that I'm doing that I ain't quite got time to teach no mother class right now because I'm winning.
And so when you walk into a boardroom with a bunch of guys in suits who all went to college, you're fine.
Yeah, I mean, because they read a bunch of words. I've lived a bunch of life.
Well, that's true. Their law degree doesn't intimidate you. In other words.
It kind of evens us out, whether they know it or not.
Where do you think you get that self-esteem from? Seriously. I mean, most guys...
My mom first and foremost, but then just living life. Like, you know, being in real situations and happen to be a person of high integrity and honesty and, you know...
You never embarrassed yourself?
No, of course not.
You never walked in and said, "Oh, everybody thinks I'm ignorant here. I'm stupid."
I don't feel ignorant.
Right.
You know, I don't.
Right.
I felt like I came up in a situation, or a time, you know, where I wasn't afforded certain opportunities, and if afforded opportunities, I could be Oprah. I could be Bill Gates. I could be Warren Buffett.
In my experience in business, there is very little difference, if any, between a very high-priced business education and what's available for a lot less money. I went to the University of Nebraska at Lincoln my last year in college. I went to Wharton for a couple of years before that. I learned just as much at the University of Nebraska as I did at Wharton. You need to be prodded in the right direction, but an awful lot of it is self-taught. It isn't necessary to pay $30,000 or $35,000 a year to go to some big name school to get the education at all. I mean, if you're going to learn accounting, which is probably the most important course you'd take in business, if you're going to learn accounting, you can learn accounting absolutely as well, in my view, going to UNO as going to Harvard. I mean, I see. I'd bet on that, and so I wouldn't run up huge bills.
And education is very good at training people to do the same things that we've done over and over again. And I think there's always a question what the nature of the educational good is. You know, you can say it's an investment good where you're investing in the future. You can say it's a consumption good, like college is a 4-year party. You know, I think most of the parents and students think of it actually as an insurance policy where you're buying this really ever more expensive insurance so that the students don't fall through the really big cracks in our society. And we should be asking some big questions why the insurance costs are going up and up like that. And if you were the president of Harvard or Stanford, if you wanted to get a lynch mob of students, alumni, faculty to come after you and try to lynch you, what you should say is something like this. You know, we live in this much larger, more global world. We offer a great education to everybody. And so we're going to double or triple our enrollment over the next 15 to 20 years. And people they'd all be furious because the value of the degrees comes from this massive exclusion. And what you're really running is something like a Studio 54 nightclub.
I hated school. I really hated school. I hated school generally, right? Because it was this instruction following thing. Now, I bet you it's probably also because I wasn't good at it. And some people, like I've got a great conceptual memory and a terrible rote memory. So if I have a story, I could tell you year by year kind of what happened within a story, within a context. But if I was to go into, you know, like a memory-based learning, it's terrible. I have a terrible rote memory. Ego barrier is the worst thing. And if we were raised differently, just imagine in the schools that all along that people will always say, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has weaknesses. The key is really to understand what your mistakes and weaknesses are so that you can learn from them, right? I think punishment is a terrible concept. Punishment means that you made a mistake and you're being punished. I think instead of punishment, every time somebody makes a mistake, you should say the only thing that you need to do to get out of your punishment is first think, what kind of mistake was that? So if I'm in a situation that's like that again, how would I deal with it differently, not to make that mistake? So that learning should come from the mistake, not punishment, because you're teaching people not to make mistakes. Where's where the learning comes from, not the appreciation that if you keep doing this over and over again, you're going to keep encountering the same outcomes.
You know, it's an extremely corrupt system we have at this point. We have an education bubble. In the US, we have $1 trillion of student debt. To a first approximation, this has gone to pay for $1 trillion worth of lies about the value of the education people have received. It's not at all obvious yet, though, what's going to replace this or how it's going to change. I'm somewhat skeptical that it will be replaced by any sort of single unitary system. I have this fellowship for young people to start companies, and it's not. My claim is not that everybody should do this. I don't think everyone should become an entrepreneur. And I think there is no one size fits all. I think the future will be much more heterogeneous, much more diverse in terms of what people do. What's really anomalous is the sort of unitary tracking where you have to go to an elite college, you go to Yale or you go to jail. There's nothing else you can do, you know. And so I think the universities are perhaps in the same place as the Catholic Church was in 1514, if we go back 500 years, where you had sort of this monolithic way, this universal way of body of knowledge of teaching things. The difference between the Yale and the Harvard political science faculties are probably no greater than the differences between the Dominicans and the Franciscans. So we have all kinds of small debates within this context. We have a system of indulgences that's costing more and more to support this priestly or professorial class of people. We are told that it's the only way to salvation. You must get a diploma to be saved. If you do not get a diploma, then you will go to hell. And I think the message that I have that's like the 16th century reformers, that's a somewhat troubling message, is that you have to work out your salvation on your own. You have to save yourself, and that's I believe that is the truth, but it's a somewhat uncomfortable one.
Thank you, Mr. Slim, for that. Very interesting thoughts right there. And welcome everybody. Welcome to our Facebook, audience. Welcome to our regular YouTube audience. This is a special edition of Ask Your Teacher, and we're going to be talking the transition in terms of ICT learning, how we're transitioning from ICT to computer science in our schools. My name is Eddie Mihigo. I know you're used to seeing me on Friday mornings, but I'm wearing my virtual coat today. And I'm here as a member of the TDA Tech Series just to talk about transitioning in terms of computers and IT and information technology in general. The lines are open. I don't know who's monitoring the phones, but the lines are open. You can ask us questions about what you just saw, which was very interesting, some very interesting views, and ask us along as we go along, about all of these things that we're going to talk about. I am joined today by Mr. Doro Ardea, who is the CIO, the CIO, the Chief Information Officer. I don't know, I was thinking communications. The Chief Information Officer here at the Dow Academy. And I'm also joined by Mr. Otile. Hello, Mr. Otile.
Yeah,
who has a very interesting story to tell.
Oh.
Yes, definitely. Very, very interesting. Similar to I tell the same story. So you and I are the product of what we're going to talk about.
Okay.
And we're the product of what that video is about. All right. Now I just we're gonna be having some virtual guests coming in and out as we go along. I might just make some random phone calls to random people to get their thoughts. Like, that's what we're doing. It's Ask a Teacher, but with a little bit of a twist. So welcome. And I think, Mr. Alday, I think that video says a lot. I know it's very, I don't know what's the word, counterintuitive. Is that the correct word?
On the face of it, yes. Yeah. But not in what we're trying to achieve. Yeah. So when you first showed me that video, my initial reaction was like, Mr. Eddie, we're at school. We can't play this. But the purpose of this discussion and the video is to kind of shock.
Yeah.
And now that we have your attention, I want us to have an open discussion about what the purpose of education is, but within that scope, especially with the purpose of, I call it IT. ICT is an old term. So we can even start there, right? So the purpose of IT learning in school and where it really should be and what the Dow Academy is doing to capture that. And besides you guys, I mean, I'm a product of this type of learning as well. I did some IT in school, but it was not what this focus is. So I'm happy to have this conversation.
That is awesome. I'm going to start by just pointing out there's an article I found as I was doing my research real quick for the subject. And this article was interestingly written on the 1st of September 2014, right? It's featured in the BBC, and the heading is simply "A Computing Revolution in Schools." This is 7 years ago. And basically just the summary of this article is, at some point, schools in the UK realized that the way they were teaching IT just wasn't cutting it. Because, and we've had this conversation before, It was very instructional. It was very descriptive in terms of, oh, this is the mouse, this is the keyboard, this is your screen.
It's
double click here to open this, and it was literally that throughout middle school and secondary school. And at some point, it seemed there was a shift. But what the article is saying is the shift happened a little too quickly, and they literally just moved IT to the back. They said, okay, fine, we need to figure this out. We're moving along without this thing because it's not working. And in 2014, what they realized was, no, we need to have some form of strategic, structured approach to ensuring that the shift between what we were doing before and what we want to do happens. So what the UK government did was come up with a document called the National Curriculum in England Computing Programs of Study Statutory Guidance.
What's the short? Is there a short version?
If you know the British, no, there is not. So, and interestingly, this was a study that was conducted in 2013, and the aim was to kind of understand the fundamental principles and concepts of computer science, to analyze the problems in computational terms, to evaluate and apply information technology, including new or unfamiliar technologies, analytically in order to solve problems, and also to ensure pupils would be responsible, competent, confident, and creative users of information and communication technology. Isn't that just wholly encompassing?
Yes, but it's too broad, isn't it?
Yeah, so I think those are aims, those are main aims. And I think as they do the study, they try and kind of narrow it down, and because you want to be able to pick at everything, and I'm sure this if it's still a live document today.
Good.
So it's still probably something that they're still refining as they go along. But let's bring it down a little bit closer to home. Mr. Otsile, how are you?
I'm good.
You're probably like in our panel. You're the youngest person, right?
Yes, sir.
Am I right? Am I wrong?
Yeah,
I'm right. Yeah.
I hate to admit it.
You hate to admit it.
Why do you hate to admit
it? It's a blessing, man.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
It is.
You know how it feels to be called Nsima Gana in school?
No, yeah, we call you, civilized people will call you young man, which means you are young, but you're still an adult.
Yeah, man.
And it's always a blessing to be in the council of the wise. Indeed.
That's assuming we are wise.
Well, we're not gonna go into that one.
It's a different rabbit hole.
Mr. Otsile, I'm gonna guess before you started working in IT, right? You had come across. I'm not gonna go into how you started working in IT.
Yeah.
But I'm going to assume before you started working in IT, you came across some form of IT in high school.
Not really, but yes. Okay. Oh, you said you're guessing, so
yeah. And I'm saying when I say some form, I'm talking about
somewhere,
somehow.
Yeah.
All right. Are you able to tell me, like, in short, like what you came across in IT, like some of the things, because I want us to have like an objective approach and really look at, let's say, your situation and how, if we were 5 years ahead, how would we be tackling that?
Okay.
Yeah.
It was just the basics, like Utsile, this is Microsoft Word, blah blah blah. You can type PowerPoint. This is what you do, presentations, stuff like that.
Okay.
Yes, just so small, little.
All right.
And
a lot of solitaire.
Okay, actually, that's a very good point. Because now listen to this. So a lot of solitaire, right? But did you learn more from playing solitaire than did you learn sitting in class saying, "This is how you move the mouse. This is how you click. This is how you close the window."
The traditional teacher methods, like this is the mouse. Yeah, because you interact.
Because you interact with it, and you have repetition, and you remember.
It was something that we were not allowed to do it, but we did it anyway.
And you learn, and you learn craftier things like creating shortcuts, and not having to go all the way to Windows accessories to get to the page. You just double click the shortcut and it opens.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good point. But Mr. Otsile, would you say that what you learned then is helping you in the work that you do today?
It's not.
I wanted to hear that from you. Right?
It's not.
I wanted to hear that from you.
It's not. It's not.
Okay. Let me come back to Mr. Aldea. The reality of the matter is, I love to say we live in a system, right? And living in a system means you have to learn the system before you can change the system or attempt to change the system. What are there any pushbacks in terms of us trying to say, okay, can we redefine the approach in terms of IT and how to disperse that to our students?
It's a dangerous question. The pushback isn't necessarily from students, from staff, nor parents.
Okay.
That's not where the pushback is. The pushback is going to be in how it is implemented. So let me give you an example.
Yeah.
To be an ICT teacher, you need to have permission to teach.
Yes.
Document, right? But the problem is the person who has the permission to teach document has probably been trained in how to teach IT from a classroom perspective. If we want to transition to teach computer science, which is a lot more holistic IT, right? That person that has the permission to teach has not trained in computer science. They are trained in how to teach IT. So for us the pushback is in terms of how we hire. For example, the best computer science teacher would be somebody who's a computer scientist, who is a software engineer at a company, and who wants to teach.
Yeah.
That would be the best computer science teacher.
True.
However, we cannot hire them.
You have to hire a teacher.
We have to hire a
teacher who knows how to teach computer science.
So that teacher has to have qualifications. They have had to go to school, be a qualified teacher. Then they have to have the permission to teach.
Yeah.
So it's hard for us to that's where the pushback is, and it's not a person, right? It's
a whole.
It's kind of a system.
It's a system. It's a structure.
It's how do we? It's the chicken and the egg argument.
That's right.
Right. It's like, how do we get that computer science teacher in the classroom to teach computer science?
If we can only get a teacher that knows how to teach computer science in the classroom. Yeah, okay, so then it makes it a little bit interesting. But this is, I like how you got to that, because I like to believe that whenever you meet a brick wall, right, you can literally throw a rope and go over it. You can go around it. You can go under it. Some people will say you can go through it.
I mean, that's exactly what we're trying to teach you, right? We're growing problem solvers, and it is a problem, and you best bet that we will solve it.
That's right, because I mean, we have to practice what we preach as well, right?
Yes, sir.
If we're gonna teach people how to find problems and find the solutions to those problems, we also have to find the solutions to our problems as teachers, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
And I think this is where programs like the Tech Series are very important, because the Tech Series are very, very interesting in that you take a school environment and you take a professional environment and you literally put them in the same place, and magic happens. Sometimes it's a beautiful accident, sometimes it's a horrible accident, but everybody comes out of that situation with having learned something new. I don't know, Mr. Tesla, do we have our guest in? She's not going to be doing video. She's only doing audio. So I don't know if we can bring her in. Hello, ma'am.
Hi, guys. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
I don't know if you guys can hear me.
We can hear you loud and clear. We're all right. So we're talking about first of all, we're talking about beautiful accidents that happen in classrooms when you have professionals and students in the same environment. Do you have a story for us?
Florence, can you introduce yourself? Who are you?
Yeah, first of all, tell us who you are, Florence. Okay.
So my name is Florence Chilisa. I am co-founder at Black Oak Consulting, a software engineering company that's specially in producing bespoke software.
That's very modest, Florence. What else have you done?
I have also been a fellow with TDA, where I taught standard 4s, your basic coding skill.
Okay,
which
great.
was quite
Tell us about
interesting.
your experience. What's something interesting that happened between you and your students in a beautiful accident, as I learned to call them?
Beautiful accident. Well, I don't know if there were so much as accidents, but there are quite a few things I can point to. Like,
Yeah.
because I'm not your professional teacher, right? So you come classroom with, your own perception of this is how it's gonna go, right? And then you have the children totally drive it in a different way, and then off a tangent of what you were expecting or what you had planned, and then you end up even teaching something totally different because they sort of steered it that way, or they steered it that way, or even just going on their own, and you're like, okay, I see this is what you're interested in, so how about we actually look at it and see what we can do with it.
No, that's cool. But do you feel like at the end of the day, you and the students come out of it having learned something?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think I definitely learned something from them and them too, because one of the things that I love about these series that TDA is doing is that they get to understand that they have more options than your conventional industry. For instance, the ones that are always being said to our children will be teacher, doctor, policeman, soldier, those typical mainstream industries. But then, they get introduced to something that they find actually really love. I remember one of the students who, I think her parents really wanted her to go into that. She really didn't care for it in the beginning, and you could see that she had absolutely no interest. But then by the end, one of the best students, and she was really interested in it. I mean, she would be the first to be in and the last to get out and want even more work to be doing at home. And she, it's something she's absolutely interested in doing, as a career. Well, yes, she's still in standard 4, but at least she knows that she has that option and, that it is available to her and that there are other things out there in your conventional mainstream industries.
All right. No, this is what
As for me,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, as for me, I mean, I think it reinforced that, which is funny enough. I mean, I work in a very agile environment. And so you're supposed to be very you're supposed to be very adaptable to anything that comes your way. But then I realized that in itself also works within constraints. And when you add children, that knocks it way out. And so you have to be even more agile, than you're normally used to. That, reminded me that, what, if you're expecting to take a certain plan and it doesn't go your way, it's okay. It could actually be a good thing. Work with it and see where it takes you and just, take it on step by step.
And have you applied that to like other projects that you've come across, that agility and being able to think on your feet?
Yes. I mean, like I'm saying, that I've been in an agile environment and that's how we work. But then I realized that even though I thought I was very agile, it was within expected, sort of like an expected dome. So that opened me up to, being even more adaptable to just way off. So I liked that reminder and it was very good for me.
realize that I'm actually not helping myself, because halfway through the class, you look at your notes and you look at what you're talking about on the board, and it's totally different things. We're talking about microchips, and I'm supposed to be talking about computer cases.
Yeah.
No,
So
Absolutely.
that's one.
And I think
That's one of the nice part about these programs. Actually, is we kind of go along. We know where we start and we know where we want to end.
Yeah.
We've kind of given up, like do
The
it this
in-between,
way.
Yeah, the in between is
Here's the goal, right?
Yeah.
Like get to it.
That's right.
However you get to it, make sure the kids learn.
That's right.
And the rest, how you get there is how you get there.
That's right. Florence, we lost you for a second there, but would you then recommend, if I was to put one of your colleagues in the same spot, would you recommend them to come and teach our kids?
Oh, definitely. I definitely would. I think it's an experience that also, you know, like I said, it's eye-opening for you as well. And I think for us, it was really good as Black Hope because we are somewhat in the education sector as well, because we have a game that we produce for children. So, you know, being in the midst of that and engaging with these children at that level and being able, you know, to really get their perspectives and their way of thinking on a lot of these issues has been really, really helpful for us. So I would definitely recommend this.
No, dope. Hi, Florence. Thank you so much for chatting with us. I might call you again a little bit later. You know, just expect that. But for
No
now,
worries.
thank you so much. I know it was a little short notice, but you did the most. I guess you're learning from that agility, just to be a little more flexible.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you. Have yourself a lovely afternoon. All right.
Bye.
So that was bye. That was
Bye.
Florence Chalisa of Black Oak, who's one of our TDA fellows. And I'll tell you, when you're dealing with young ones, and someone says, definitely I recommend everybody to, that means there's something good coming out of that.
Yes.
Because I do have my moments with my kids, but like you said, at the end of the day, when they've learned something new, and because every day we recap, and when I recap and I hear that, oh, they've really done the most to really apply themselves, that's what it's about. And what I usually tell my children is, if we recap and you haven't, if 2 or 3 of you don't know the answer to my question, we're gonna go back and cover that material again. And we do. We go, and it helps because now they know they have to, it's up to them to be serious about it. And they do apply themselves. So from that, what I'm learning is it doesn't matter how old the child is. If you really give them a chance to learn, to apply themselves, to be the driver of that conversation, then they will learn and they'll find interest in what you're trying to teach them. Okay, let's look to the future before we go, maybe for 5 minutes, let's look to the future and then we can go to the lines to see if we have any questions. Mr. Otile.
Yes, sir.
In 5 years, when you have a 2-year-old, don't do the math, just listen to the question. In 5 years, when you have a 2-year-old, and now you know you're an IT instructor on top of being an IT technician, right?
Yes, sir.
What are some of the things that you will want to be able let me ask this right. What are some of the things that you will want your offspring to be able to learn that you didn't learn when you were young?
At 2 years.
No, I'm saying as they go. Yes.
Just doing more practical than theory. Like you said, theory sometimes goes another direction, while the proper work is another thing.
Because I mean, that's what you're applying yourself in right now, isn't it? You do a lot of practical stuff. Of course, the theory is there, but if you're given a problem, you're told fix this or install this program. You know the reason you are reading this theory is in order to apply it almost immediately.
Mm-hmm.
It's not so that you can get an A.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now we come back to, because there's implications, sir.
Of course.
There's implications. And for him, it might be his 2-year-old in 3 years, or is it 5 years? I'm losing myself. but for you, sir, it's an institution-wide change that has to be effected. How, and I like that you like to say the path of least resistance. Yeah. How do we get to a point where we can say we can see a light at the end of the tunnel?
So we, as an institution in 2021, we started doing a curriculum assessment review of all our subjects. But since we're talking about IT, let's focus on IT.
Yeah.
We looked at all the IT curriculum, both from a primary perspective and a secondary perspective. So let's start with the secondary, where currently we have a Cambridge IGCSE. And Cambridge is great, IGCSE is great, there's nothing wrong with it. However, we inspected every curriculum. We wanted to understand, okay, in IT, what are these students actually learning? So we came to the realization that a lot of the skills they were learning them in very much in isolation. Kind of like you were explaining, move the mouse, click this button, open Word, print. Okay, cool, but you're not actually learning. You're memorizing steps.
Yeah.
So what we want to do moving forward, do we really want to continue with IT as part of a Cambridge class, right? So we're saying, look, if IT in Cambridge, if the students are not learning the skills they should be learning when you're 19 years old and you go to work, then what is the purpose of us teaching that skill?
True.
Because when somebody leaves when they're 18 years old, under my belief is they should be able to go on the workforce, right? And they at least have the state of mind to where, yes, you will not know everything. Right now, if I move jobs, I will not know how to do my next job, regardless of age or wisdom or anything, right? So you will be learning on the job. But we want the students to, one, know how to think, right? So if you have a problem, how do you solve the problem, right? Do you Google it? Do you go ask somebody? Do you try it yourself? And two, at least have basic skills to where I don't have to teach you how to move a mouse.
Yeah.
Right, but you don't learn those skills by sitting in a classroom and just clicking or moving. So we wanted to look at IT and make the transition between an IT class and a computer science class.
Yeah.
So a computer science class encompasses all of IT and then more. So as part of computer science, we wanted to teach kids coding. We want to teach kids video game design. We want to teach kids graphic design. We can keep going down the list of all these skills that we want to teach our kids in the classroom.
Yeah.
And as those kids are learning that, let's say, graphic design or video game design, along the way, they're also going to learn how to type. They're going to learn how to move a mouse.
Yes.
They're going to learn
those fundamentals
all the fundamentals
anyway.
exactly that are already covered in the IT course. So we're putting on top of that IT course a practical, real life classroom simulation.
So basically, IT is integrated more or less.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the path we want to take with all of our subjects.
Yeah.
But we're going to start with IT, and we're going to see how it does. So that transition will start to happen very, very soon. And I'm going to be very curious at how it's going to work, because I know it's going to work. I'm curious where it's going to end up.
And I like that we have an academic right next to you.
I can relate to. It's philosophy or what, but I came for the interview to teach IT, and then I didn't make it. Then Eddie came to me and be like, "I'm interested in you working in the radio." I went to the studio and was like, "What do these guys want to do here?" Looking at these machines, I was like, "Ah!" Should I tell them that I don't want to? And they didn't say this is a control board. I just learned on my own, looking at how they do it, looking how Slim does it. I'm still in this one though. What do you call this program?
StreamYard.
StreamYard. I'm still learning it. Yeah, but I think I have those skills to like learn on the process, learn while ongoing. Like, yeah.
And that's what it's about, in my
I
opinion.
was scared.
And it's okay to be scared, because when you're scared, it's like, I want to do it, but I don't know how to.
Yeah.
You see, that's fear.
But I'm still here.
Being passive, being passive is I don't care, you know, and I don't like people who are passive. I like people who want to learn. If you're scared, that's what will make you ask. Say, hey man, what does that button do? You know, and that's how you learn. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is what we want to do. The idea is to learn as we go along. When in another lifetime, when I was in another iteration of myself, we had a term that says clean as you go. That is, don't wait until your entire workstation is dirty to start cleaning it up. You'll apply more force and you'll be tired by the time you're done. But what you do is, if you do a little something here, clean it up there. Do a little something here, clean it up. So as you progress, it becomes easier and you use the path of least resistance, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, that I hope this discussion was as productive for you as it was for us. I definitely learned 1 to 2 things, and I hope I don't know if we have any questions from our audience.
Yeah, today our audience is a bit quiet.
Okay. No, we did want them to listen today more than anything. But if you're watching this if you're watching this tomorrow or the day after, please do comment and let us know what your thoughts are, because that's very important for us to consider them and also to use them in what we're going to be doing going forward. This is definitely not the last time we're going to have this conversation around not just IT, but how to improve learning in general. And as you know, at the Dow Academy, registration is open for 2022. And if you want any information, just go to www.thedowacademy.org and you'll find everything that you need on that website. Or you can just take a drive to Mochudi and you can meet the lovely team. You can come hang out at the teleradio station. We can put you on the spot and you can have the spotlight right on you. And yeah, it's a really lovely place to be at. I don't know if anybody has any parting words. We'll start over here. Tsila, go ahead. The youngest one in the room. Come on.
Oh, man. Yeah, no. IT is I don't know if I'm gonna use the right word. You know,
That's massive.
It's a massive. Yeah, IT it plays a massive role in our lives.
Okay.
So at least just do the basics, not mouse things. Do something. Open those PCs. Say Nyahela.
Like I like to say, I know my boss cringes when I say this. Kill them and bring them back to life.
Yes, kill them and bring them back.
As long as they come back to life.
As long as they're guaranteed to come back to life.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Alday, any parting words?
No, we do value your feedback. So what Mr. Eddie was saying is very much, if you have feedback for us, send us the comments, because those comments will help us design the curriculum for what our students will be learning. So let's create some computer scientists in Botswana. They don't have to come from overseas.
Yeah.
So join us.
All right, Mr. Tefo.
Teacher.
This is not about me, but I'm gonna go ahead and be like, there's a huge gap in our education. Teachers have been taught to teach. That's something that I've noticed for it. It's not right. We need to change the system, and TDA is out here to offer that.
All right.
Yeah.
Awesome, I'd like to give a shout out to Mr. Slim on the technical boards. Thank you so much for helping us just put this together. Thank you to Ms. Florence Chalisa for joining us. Guys, this was a special edition of #Ask Your Teacher. Every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at 3:15. That's 15:15 in the afternoon. There will be a teacher instructing and taking your questions. We're trying to have this as interactive as possible, and we're trying to have as many young people as possible join in. There are a lot of people who didn't do too well in the Form 5, so we need to refresh. It'll be really great for them to, you know, to be able to learn something in this way. And if you have any questions, please just in the comment section of the YouTube video, of the Facebook video, go ahead and ask, and we'll be sure to respond to you as soon as we can. But this is your boy Eddie, not TGIF, hashtag Ask Your Teacher. I'm signing out, and goodbye. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lakas ng iyong dating, kapag nakikita ka, ako ay napapraning. Bawat giling mo na pampagising, hindi mapipigilan na sa'yo'y mapatingin. Ako ay tinamaan sa katatangi mong ganda. Bawat galaw ng iyong balakang ay napapatayo mo ang lanta. Kung halaman sa katunayan, madalas nakatitig sa iyong larawan. Ang dami naman yung iba, pero ewan ko ba, ikaw ang hinahangaan. Di mo na kailangan ng crown ni Catriona, at maging neneng di pa ang iyong katawan. Kahit tingin nila sa'yo ay iba na, sa'kin ikaw pa rin ang number one. Highland, lakas ng iyong dating, kapag nakikita ka, ako ay napapraning. Bawat giling mo na pampagising, hindi mapipigilan na sa'yo'y mapatingin. Highland, lakas ng iyong dating, kapag nakikita ka, ako ay napapraning. Bawat giling mo na pampagising, hindi mapipigilan na sa'yo'y mapatingin. Umaga, tanghali, hapon at gabi, sipi ko lagi ang nasa tabi. Kapag may bagong upload ng video, teka ko mismo din ang mapakali. Diretso tindahan, te pwede pa-load, para ma-share ko at mapanood. Maubos man ang giga 50, okay lang at least hindi na ubos sa buong. Di man makapag-ML, sa'kin ay ayos lang. Makita ko lang kay TikTok mo, sa'kin ay ayos yon. Kaya Leng, sana ako'y pansinin, huwag mo nang sayawin ang tala, hindi naman kita dadalhin. Hi Leng, lakas ng iyong dating, kapag